Billionaire watches Waitress repair little girl's broken toy, then notices her own bandaged hands. What if a broken toy was the key to unlocking a billionaire's heart? What if a waitress's scars held a story so powerful that it could change both their lives forever? Rosie's Haven clings to a forgotten corner of Chicago's South Side, its neon sign flickering like a heartbeat struggling to hold on. The diner is a time capsule of cracked red vinyl booths, a jukebox that hiccups through Sinatra's My Way, and the heavy scent of burnt coffee and sizzling bacon that seeps into everything. The regulars, truckers nursing hangovers, retirees counting pennies, single mothers stretching a $5 meal are drawn to the diner's cheap plates and the fleeting warmth of community. For Clara Hensley, 30, Rosie's is more than a workplace. It's the axis of her existence, a battlefield where she fights to keep her family from falling apart. Clara's life is a masterclass in endurance, her chestnut hair perpetually tied in a messy bun, escapes in wisps that frame her tired but resolute hazel eyes. Her hands bandaged, calloused, scarred are a living testament to her sacrifices. Burns from a scalding coffee pot, cuts from a shattered glass, scars from years of stitching her family's fragile existence together. At 18, she was a college freshman, dreaming of becoming a physical therapist, but that dream was buried when her father, Walter, walked out, leaving behind a trail of unpaid medical bills and a family on the brink. Clara dropped out, trading textbooks for a waitress apron, her aspirations smothered by the weight of responsibility. Her days revolve around two people: her younger brother, Theo, 16, who has cerebral palsy and a fierce love for comic books, and their mother, Evelyn, 52, whose chronic lung disease has stolen her voice and her past as a jazz singer. Theo's condition demands constant care, physical therapy, specialized equipment, and endless patience. Evelyn's illness requires oxygen tanks, medications, and hospital visits that drain their meager savings. Clara's life is a relentless cycle: 12-hour shifts at the diner, rushing home to help Theo with his exercises, checking Evelyn's oxygen levels, and praying the next bill doesn't break them. Her bandaged hands are her badge of honor, but also her secret shame. She hides them under her apron, deflecting the pitying glances of regulars who know her too well. Clara moves through Rosie's with a practiced grace, her smile a shield against the world. She knows every regular's order by heart: Old Man Jenkins, who recounts his Vietnam War stories with a trembling voice; Mrs. Callahan, who tips in quarters and calls Clara sweetheart; little Joey, whose mom stretches a single plate of fries to feed them both. Clara slips Joey an extra pancake when no one's looking, her bandaged hands quick and discreet. She's a master at hiding her exhaustion, her fear, the longing that creeps in when the diner is quiet and she stares out the rain-streaked windows, dreaming of a life where she's not just surviving, but living. Sometimes she sketches in Theo's notebook, doodling images of a clinic where she could help kids like him. But she tucks the dreams away, knowing they're out of reach. On a stormy Tuesday afternoon in October, Grayson Wells steps into Rosie's Haven, his $1,500 coat dripping onto the worn linoleum. At 38, Grayson is the picture of success, a tech billionaire whose company, Wellstack, revolutionized AI-driven logistics, landing him on magazine covers and in Chicago's elite circles. His sharp jawline and piercing blue eyes give him a movie star presence, but there's a hollowness to him, a restlessness no amount of wealth can fill. A recent merger collapse cost him $100 million and his reputation, leaving him at odds with his board and the press. His personal life is a wreck. A bitter divorce from his ex-wife, Vanessa, has reduced his time with their 10-year-old daughter, Lily, to strained phone calls and rare weekends. His penthouse, with its marble floors and skyline views, feels like a mausoleum. Grayson doesn't belong in Rosie's Haven, and he knows it. He was driving aimlessly, avoiding another boardroom battle, when the diner's neon glow pulled him in. He orders a black coffee, his voice sharp and distracted, and sits at the counter, scrolling through emails that only deepen his sense of failure. But then he sees her, Clara. She's wiping down a table, her movements quick but deliberate, her bandaged hands catching the dim light. He watches as a little girl, no older than 6, sits in a booth, clutching a tattered stuffed rabbit with a dangling arm. The girl's mother looks worn, barely glancing up from her phone. The girl's eyes brim with tears, and Clara notices. Without a word, Clara kneels beside the girl, pulling a needle and thread from her apron. Her bandaged hands, scarred, rough, trembling, slightly, move with a tenderness that stops Grayson cold. She stitches the rabbit's arm back in place, her fingers careful despite the pain they must carry. The girl's face lights up, and she throws her arms around Clara, whispering, "You're magic." Clara laughs, a soft, unguarded sound, and, for a moment, the diner feels like a different world. Grayson can't look away. It's not just the kindness, it's Clara's hands. The bandages can't hide the burns, the cuts. The scars, a story of survival written in flesh. He's seen power in boardrooms, but this is something else. This is resilience. Grayson lingers longer than he planned, watching Clara move through the diner. He notices the way she listens to Old Man Jenkins, nodding patiently at the same war story she's heard 100 times. He sees her slip a free coffee to a homeless man who shuffles in from the rain, her bandaged hands quick to hide the gesture. He catches the way she flinches when she thinks no one's looking, rubbing her hands after a long shift, her face tight, with pain she never voices. He doesn't know why, but he feels drawn to her, like a moth to a flame that doesn't burn. Grayson becomes a regular, claiming the same stool at the counter, ordering the same black coffee he barely touches. He watches Clara, not with the arrogance of a man used to getting what he wants, but with a quiet awe. He's captivated by her strength, the way she carries the weight of her world without breaking. He starts timing his visits to catch her quieter, moments when the diner slows and she lets her guard down, if only for a second. One evening, as the diner clears out, Clara catches him staring. "You're not from around here," she says, her tone half teasing, half wary. Grayson hesitates, then replies, "I don't know where I'm from anymore." It's the most honest thing he's said in years, and it surprises them both. Their conversations start small, tentative, like stepping onto thin ice. Clara tells him about Theo, how he sketches superheroes in his notebook despite the tremors in his hands. Dreaming of being an artist, she talks about Evelyn, how she used to sing Ella Fitzgerald at local clubs, her voice filling rooms before her lungs gave out. Grayson listens, his usual guarded demeanor softening. He tells her about Lily, how she loves to draw, too, but he only sees her a few times a year. He doesn't mention the divorce or the merger, but Clara senses the weight he carries, the cracks in his polished facade. There's a connection, fragile but undeniable, like a spark in the dark. Over weeks, their bond grows in stolen moments, late-night coffee refills, quick chats between orders. Grayson starts showing up outside the diner, offering to drive Clara to Theo's therapy appointments, claiming it's on his way even though his penthouse is miles from their neighborhood. He buys Theo a new wheelchair with better support, insisting it's no trouble. When Clara's landlord threatens eviction over late rent, Grayson pays it off anonymously. But Clara figures it out when the landlord mentions a friend in a fancy car. She's grateful, but uneasy. Help doesn't come free, not in her world. Still, she lets him in, bit by bit. They laugh over Theo's terrible puns, share stories under the diner's flickering lights, and for the first time in years, Clara feels seen. For Grayson, it's the first time he feels human. Clara invites Grayson to their apartment one evening, a cramped two-bedroom with peeling wallpaper and a couch patched with duct tape. Theo's there, sketching in his notebook, his eyes lighting up when Grayson asks about his superheroes. Evelyn, frail but sharp, watches from her armchair, her oxygen tank humming softly. Grayson brings takeout pizza, Theo's favorite, and they eat together. The room filled with laughter for the first time in months. Clara watches Grayson with Theo, the way he listens patiently as Theo explains his latest comic book plot, and something in her softens. But she's not naive. She notices the way Grayson's phone buzzes constantly, the way he tenses when he thinks she's not looking. She senses he's hiding something, but she's too afraid to ask. Her life has taught her that hope is dangerous, and Grayson, kind as he is, feels like a risk she's not sure she can take. As their bond deepens, Grayson becomes a fixture in Clara's life. He shows up at their apartment, helping Theo with his stretches and bringing takeout so Clara doesn't have to cook after a double shift. He pays for Evelyn's new oxygen concentrator. Brushing off Clara's protests, "It's just money," he says, but to Clara, it's a lifeline. She starts to dream again, imagining a future where she's not drowning in bills, where she can go back to school, become the therapist she always wanted to be. Grayson fuels that hope, telling her she's stronger than anyone he's ever met, that she could do anything, but he's still holding back, and Clara feels it, a shadow in his eyes, a hesitation in his voice. Clara's world isn't all grim. There are moments of light. Theo's laughter when Grayson reads his latest comic book script. Evelyn's rare smile when Clara sings one of her old jazz standards. But the pressure is relentless. Theo's therapy costs are climbing, and Evelyn's condition worsens, requiring a new specialist whose fees Clara can't afford. Her hands, always bandaged, are a constant reminder of her limits. She can't work harder, can't earn more, can't escape the diner's grip. Grayson's presence is a bomb, but it's also a complication. She catches herself smiling at him, her heart racing when he brushes her hand, and it scares her. She's never let anyone this close, not since her father left. Trust feels like a luxury she can't afford. Grayson, too, is at a breaking point. The press is digging into Wellstack's merger, and whispers of corruption are growing louder. His board demands he spin the narrative, protect the company at all costs. But Grayson's tired of the lies, tired of the man he's become. He thinks of Clara's bandaged hands, her quiet strength, and wonders if he could be more than a billionaire, more than a name in headlines. He starts confiding in her, small truths at first, his fear of losing Lily, his regret over the divorce, but the bigger truth, the merger, the bribes, the whistleblower, stays locked inside. He knows telling her could destroy everything, but keeping it from her feels like a betrayal. Meanwhile, a new figure enters Clara's life, Marla, a nurse at Theo's therapy center, who notices Clara's dedication and suggests she apply for a grant to fund her education. Marla's encouragement rekindles Clara's dream, but it also makes her question Grayson's role in her life. Is he helping her out of kindness, or is there something more? The question gnaws at her, even as she grows closer to him. She starts keeping a journal, writing down her thoughts late at night, trying to make sense of the hope and fear warring inside her. One entry reads, "He makes me want to believe in more. But what if more is just another thing I can't hold?" Onto one crisp October evening, Clara gets a call that changes everything. Hope Rising, a local nonprofit, has been watching her work with Theo, hours of at-home therapy, adapting exercises to his needs, researching techniques late into the night. They want to fund her to open a physical therapy clinic for kids with disabilities, a place where families like hers can find support. It's a dream Clara thought she'd buried, now dangling within reach. She's cautious. Offers like this don't just fall from the sky, but the excitement is overwhelming. She imagines a life where she's not just surviving, where she's helping others the way she's always helped Theo. She tells Grayson, her voice trembling with hope, and he smiles. But there's something off, a flicker of unease in his eyes. Clara digs into Hope Rising, her instincts sharp from years of dodging scams and empty promises. She spends nights at the library, poring over public records, her bandaged hands flipping through pages. What she finds shatters her. Hope Rising is a front, funded by Wellstack. Grayson didn't just stumble into Rosie's haven. He'd been looking for a way to salvage his company's image after the merger disaster. The clinic was his idea, a calculated PR move to paint Wellstack as a champion of the community. Worse, Clara uncovers articles about the merger, bribes to city officials, a whistleblower who was paid off and disappeared, corners cut on safety protocols that endangered workers. Grayson wasn't the mastermind, but he signed off on the deals, looked the other way when he should have spoken up. The betrayal cuts deep, not just because of the lies, but because Grayson represents the world Clara's been fighting against her whole life, a world where power and money crush people like her. She confronts him in the diner, the folder of evidence trembling in her bandaged hands. The diner is empty, the jukebox silent, the rain outside a relentless drumbeat. "You used me," she says, her voice low but razor sharp. You used Theo, my mom, all of us, to fix your mess. Grayson tries to explain he didn't mean for it to happen this way. He's changed. He loves her, but Clara's too angry to hear it. You're no different from my father, she says. The word's a knife. Get out. Grayson leaves. The diner's bell ringing like a death knell, and Clara collapses into a booth, her bandaged hands covering her face as she fights back tears. She feels like she's lost more than Grayson. She's lost the hope he gave her, the dream she let herself believe in. Clara throws herself into work, but the diner feels like a ghost town without Grayson's presence. She's torn part of her wants to take the clinic, to seize the chance she's been given, but accepting it feels like betraying herself. She spends nights talking to Theo, who's grown fond of Grayson. He messed up, Clara, Theo says, sketching a superhero with Grayson's blue eyes. But he's trying, doesn't that count? Evelyn, frail but sharp, tells Clara love isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up when it's hard. Clara's spent her life protecting her heart, but she wonders if she's been too afraid to let anyone in. She visits the site of the proposed clinic, a small storefront with big windows, and imagines kids like Theo walking through its doors. The dream is so close, but it's tainted by Grayson's lies. Clara also faces pressure from Marla, who urges her to apply for the grant she mentioned earlier. Marla shares her own story. She was a single mother who went back to school to become a nurse, defying the odds. You're stronger than you know, Marla tells her. Clara starts the application, pouring her heart into it, but she's haunted by the clinic and what it represents. She writes in her journal, I want to believe in second chances, but what if I'm just setting myself up to fall again? Grayson, meanwhile, is dismantling his empire. He digs into the merger, unearthing every dirty deal, every bribe, every lie. He fires the executives involved, even though it costs him his board's loyalty. He leaks the truth to the press, knowing it'll tank Wellsteck's stock and likely end his career. He liquidates personal assets, his penthouse, his vacation home, his private jet to fund the clinic, setting it up through a transparent foundation with no ties to his company. It's not about redemption, it's about doing what's right, even if it costs him everything. He thinks of Clara's bandaged hands, her quiet strength, and knows he wants to be a man she could trust, not a billionaire, not a CEO, just a man. But Grayson's actions have consequences. The press hounds him, painting him as a fallen tycoon. His board stages a coup, threatening to oust him. Vanessa, his ex-wife, uses the chaos to limit his access to Lily, accusing him of instability. Grayson fights back, hiring a lawyer to secure his visitation rights, but the battle drains him. He visits Rosie's haven one last time, not in a suit but in jeans and a worn jacket, his face raw with exhaustion. The diner is quiet, the rain outside a soft drumbeat. Clara's behind the counter, her bandaged hands still, her eyes guarded. Grayson doesn't beg or plead. He just hands her a folder. Inside are the deeds to the clinic, fully funded, no strings attached. He's stepping away from Wellsteck, giving up control to focus on what matters: Lily, Clara, and making amends. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he says, his voice steady but soft. I just want you to have what you deserve, and I want to be someone who deserves you. Clara stands at a crossroads. She could walk away, take the clinic, and build her life alone. She's done it before, survived, fought, carried her family through the dark. But as she looks at Grayson, she sees something new, a man who's laid himself bare, who's chosen her over his empire. She thinks of Theo's sketches, Evelyn's words, the little girl with the stitched rabbit. She thinks of her own hands scarred, bandaged, but still capable of building something new. She takes the folder, her fingers brushing his. This doesn't mean I trust you, she says, her voice soft but firm. Not yet. Grayson nods, a flicker of hope in his eyes. They start again, slowly, honestly. Clara opens the clinic, naming it Theo's Haven, and it becomes a beacon for families like hers, kids with disabilities, parents stretched thin, dreams almost forgotten. The clinic is small but bright, with colorful murals painted by Theo and Lily, who visits on weekends and calls Clara the coolest person ever. Grayson reconnects with Lily, bringing her to Chicago to meet Clara and Theo. They spend evenings at the diner, Theo sketching superheroes, Lily adding colors. Clara and Grayson sharing quiet glances over coffee. Clara also wins the grant Marla encouraged her to apply for, using it to start night classes. Slowly working toward her physical therapy degree. It's a grueling schedule: clinic, classes, family, but she's not alone anymore. The journey isn't easy. Clara struggles to balance the clinic, school, and her family. Her hands still bearing the scars of her old life. Grayson faces backlash from his board, lawsuits from investors, and the slow, painful work of rebuilding. His relationship with Lily. There are nights when Clara doubts, when the weight of her past makes her wonder if she's made the right choice. There are days when Grayson feels the pull of his old life, the temptation to reclaim his power. But they show up for each other, for Theo, for Lily, for Evelyn. They fight for the life they're building, not with money or promises, but with honesty and time. One snowy evening, 2 years later, Clara and Grayson sit at the counter of Rosie's Haven. The diner is quieter now. Clara only works part-time, her focus on the clinic and her studies. Theo's at a nearby table, sketching with Lily, their laughter filling the air. Evelyn, stronger now with better treatment, hums a jazz tune under her breath. Her oxygen tank a soft hum in the background. Clara's hands, still scarred, but no longer bandaged, rest in Grayson's. He traces the lines of her scars, not with pity, but with reverence. "You're magic," he says, echoing the little girl from that rainy afternoon. Clara smiles, not the practiced smile of a waitress, but the real one, the one she's earned. Outside, the snow falls, blanketing Chicago in quiet. The diner's neon sign flickers, but it's still there, still glowing. Clara and Grayson look at each other, their hands intertwined, and know they've found something rare: a home. Not in a place, but in each other. It's not perfect, but it's real, and it's enough. For Clara, it's the life she dared to dream of, built from her own strength and the love she's chosen to trust. For Grayson, it's the peace he never thought he'd find, a chance to be more than his mistakes. They've both fought for this moment, this fragile, beautiful thing called home, and it's a victory hard won. As Theo and Lily laugh, as Evelyn hums, as the snow falls, Clara leans her head on Grayson's shoulder, and for the first time in years, she feels weightless.